So it is the morning of July 18th, and we're back here at the June plums. I think it's been a couple of months since the last update. On the last video, this guy had a bunch of small June plums that had actually popped up right here at the top of the plant, because as you can see here, this is the top, very top of the plant, right here where the fruits are coming out. And we haven't got much branching going on actually. We've just got this one branch coming off right there, you can see. And I think that's because most of the energy the plant is using is going into these fruits here. So at first I was debating whether to just cut it off up here and allow the plant to grow a little bit more before allowing it to fruit, but I decided that I would just let it fruit and see what comes of it, especially because this is the plant that rooted into the ground. So you can see here, he's pretty stuck in there. This one was the healthier of the two, and I did mention this on the last video. It was the healthier of the two because he was the one that rooted into the ground and was getting more nutrients than the other. Here in this pot, as you can see the difference here between the pots, this is a 7-gallon pot if I'm not mistaken. It's either a 5 or a 7-gallon pot, I don't really remember, but this here is a 1-gallon pot. So you can see the size difference between the two right here. Pretty significant difference, which also determines the size difference between the two plants. So they fairly show maturity here in the trunk of the plants, but this guy is definitely much bigger, and you guessed it, because he's in a bigger pot and he is getting more nutrients, although this guy here is getting nutrients from in the ground, which isn't synthetic fertilizer, and this guy is getting synthetic fertilizer because he's growing in Miracle-Gro potting mix. So as I've been planting these plants, I've come to the conclusion that as long as these plants are young, it would be okay for me to go ahead and put them into this Miracle-Gro potting mix, because it gives them that little extra push to get past the early phases, which tend to be the most vulnerable phases for these plants. But as they progress, they tend to eat and absorb all those nutrients, the synthetic fertilizers that is in the potting mix. And when that happens, then I can start feeding it some organic fertilizers like sea kelp. And there's always the telltale signs that these plants are going to need those nutrients, and you can always tell just by the way the plant looks. So right now he looks okay still, and I can tell it's because there's still some Miracle-Gro synthetic fertilizer in there. I wouldn't myself consume any plants that are grown with synthetic fertilizers. However, I don't do any deep research into these things, but in the future I eventually will. But as for now, I'll try and stay away from those things because of the fact that I don't know if there are any severe side effects or any problems that are related to eating plants, eating fruits and vegetables that are coming off of plants that are grown with synthetic fertilizers. I'm pretty sure that at some point in our lives, all of us have eaten something that has been grown with synthetic fertilizers, but I wouldn't encourage doing so, especially if you've got a farm going on and you're constantly eating these fruits and vegetables. I'm pretty sure you're bound to come into a situation where you're going to end up either feeling sick or have some type of long-term condition because of that. We're human beings and we're just not meant to consume things of this sort. So getting back to the June plums, like I said, this one has some fruit. It actually had much more fruit than it's actually showing right now, but I'm pretty sure because the plant isn't getting as much nutrition as it should. Only 3 of these fruits made it. So quite a few of them actually came close to this size, but then they started dropping off one after the other. The majority of them didn't even make it close to the size, but these 3 here look like they're gonna make it all the way through to the point where you can pick them. And they're starting to look very similar to the mother tree where I picked them from in the first place. But I'm pretty excited. I will definitely eat these guys because, like I said, they're getting their nutrition straight from the ground, and I do not water any synthetic fertilizers around this area so it doesn't seep into the ground here. So I do know everything that this plant is getting is organic. However, I would like to plant him out at the farm where he can get some actual really good organic stuff and actually, you know, put some compost around it and mulch it up and have it get much healthier. But in time, when these fruits come off, that's exactly what I'm going to be doing with this little guy here. Like I said, this guy was planted in Miracle-Gro potting mix. They actually both are, but this guy was planted in a bigger pot with more Miracle-Gro potting mix, and he's got lots of branching going on here. So you see one branch here, another branch right here, branch there, there. So he's got easily 5 branches, and he's looking really, really good. And as you can see on the top here, there's some baby June plums starting up. Now, he's got several June plums, but I'm pretty sure he may just turn out just like this guy here, because the tree is going to start consolidating all the nutrients and all the energy into going into just as many as the plant can handle. And it's pretty cool. I don't mind it because I want these trees to grow bigger and stronger. But also remember that these are dwarf June plums. And I think they're also commonly referred to as Jamaican June plums. Which is really cool because, like I said in the very beginning of the very first video, the June plums that I'm more used to come off of some trees that are quite big. They're really big trees. So it makes it a really cool experience to actually have these June plums growing so close to the ground, and all I have to do is just walk to the tree and pick off some June plums. So I wanted to make this update so that it doesn't seem like I'm cramming so much into one video, but that you guys can also follow along on the growth of the June plums so far. I hope this video does give you some insight, but like I said, if it doesn't give you enough answers to the questions you have, the links to the other 2 videos prior to this one will be in the description, and you can see how long it took to germinate these June plums, what method I used to germinate these June plums. None of this was hard at all. I do understand that this video could be a bit long for explaining all these things, but like I said, I also wanted to show how these June plums are actually doing, and to give you as much specific information on what I've done with these plants, so that if you guys decide to grow them, or if you manage to get your hands on some June plums of this variety right here, you guys can see that it doesn't take too long for it to start fruiting. So I think this plant is less than 1.5 years old, and it's already started fruiting, which is pretty cool if you consider how quickly time flies. Before you know it, something you put into the ground yourself and grew, is already fruiting and producing these fruits that you can enjoy for the rest of your life. That's it for now. We'll pick back up on the next update of these June plums when I guess I decide to harvest these little guys and pull this plant out of the ground.